Hello and welcome to another Conversations at the Summit, the no-nonsense podcast brought to you by Climb UK. I'm Tanya Arnold, and on this episode, speed dating for investors, but with somebody you already like the look of.
Diligentsia came about because, as an angel investor, I and two colleagues spent 3 months looking at a very presentable founder with an amazing opportunity. Didn't put our money in, but it wasted 3 months. And it was bad for him, it was bad for us. And we sat down and we thought there must be a better way to do this. Everybody listening to this will know diligence is boring. I mean, it just is. We've got to make it worthwhile so that if you're going to bother doing it, you've got to get some benefit. Everybody's got to get some benefit out the other end. And that's what we believe we've built.
Well, joining us is Mark Bernstein, the founder and CEO of Diligentsia. Mark, before we talk about your current business, I wanted to go back and ask what set you on the road to business and to being a founder?
Well, thank you first very much for having me this morning. My journey started really young. I think I was about 13 years old, and I had a couple of relatives who were part of the Cambridge computer revolution. Some of you may remember Sinclair and ZX and Spectrum and Acorn, and they were all part of that, and they were boffins. And I remember at the age of 13 going around to tea and looking at them, and they were telling me what they were doing with their computers, and sort of must have been the late 60s, early 70s. And I thought, you need a commercial person to work alongside you. So very broadly in my career, I've been the commercial chap who's worked alongside technical founders as we've brought various technologies to market over the decades.
But presumably what they were doing fascinated you, but they couldn't see, or you couldn't see what the market was?
At that stage, no. But computers were clearly going to change the world somehow, and so they have.
It took you a little while to get to that, though, didn't you? You went for accountancy.
Yes, I always thought that if I was going to be the commercial chap, I should get some qualifications first. So I qualified with Ernst & Young, and then I moved into the tech sector. I think my first role was working as the commercial CFO to the founder of a virtual reality business in 1992, which we floated. It's not terribly different to VR today, except everything was probably 20 or 30 times the price.
It struck me, you've seen a computer before any of the rest of us knew what computers were. You've got VR before any of us knew what virtual reality really was. You've been at the beginning of quite a lot of big trends. Yes,
I've been very, very lucky. I mean, with the VR company, I then went to the States and saw the internet coming in 1994. So set up one of the UK's first internet businesses. We did some of the first online credit card transactions. Then did a big social network in the States, 1998, which we sold to Yahoo. Then saw the dot-com boom happening, and there was nothing for UK institutions to invest in. So I set up an online computer games business, which we floated in 2000. And then I've also been involved in things like Internet of Things. And now, of course, AI, which is going to have massive implications for all of us.
And did you have do you think a gut instinct that you saw this was the next thing, that you could, instinctively you realized this was going to be big?
Yes. I'm not as clever as all these amazing people who build these amazing businesses, but I can see things coming. And perhaps because I'm not a techie, first and foremost, I'm a commercial person, I look to see what are the benefits. What are these technologies can actually bring to our everyday lives. That's the test here, not whether the tech's clever, it's how you apply the tech.
I mean, it's interesting at Climb, we often talk about what's the answer? You've got an answer, but what's the question? What are you trying to solve? And you seem to have instinctively seen that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to bring up. It's easy to develop solutions, but they need to be solutions to a problem. And often you look at technologies and you're looking at solutions looking for a problem. So being really clear about what difference it makes is critical. And the other thing I've learned over the decades is it's no good bringing a product to market that's twice as good as the competition. To make a buyer shift their behaviour, it's got to be 10 times better.
How do you see that? I mean, what if you say you're not a tech person, but you must have a pretty good knowledge to see that it is going to make people's lives that much better.
Yes, but it's still a challenge. I mean, a day-to-day example, look at electric cars. It's gradually happening, but it's much slower than everybody might like, and that's because an electric car is not 10 times better than the non-electric car that you have today. Perhaps it's twice as good. Many people take time to make that shift.
So in those early days when you're part of those tech businesses, how difficult was it to get investment, to go and do the pitching and all the rest of it, those nuts and bolts that we talk about at Climb in terms of growing a business?
In some ways, it was a little bit easier, but I had access to the Cambridge network of investors, and finding angels was possible. I think the UK government's done an amazing job over the last 20, 30 years to make it tax effective for angels to invest. And often, I think the money is there. Getting your business into a state which makes it easy and desirable for an angel or a VC to invest is still a problem.
And as an investor, what were you looking for, and what were the lessons you learned when you were looking?
Everybody shows you a great pitch deck. People are really good at pitch decks. Founders are really, really presentable. But trying to get behind the pitch deck to where the business actually is difficult. Every founder will tell you, with your investment, that tantalizingly great contract, big win is just around the corner, but just need your investment. And in practice, I think it takes 3 to 5 years to build a sustainably profitable business. Most investors don't want to invest if they're going to get the returns in 3 to 5 years. So the founders know that. So the founders say you'll get a return in 18 months. And the trick is to really look behind that deck. The idea may be great. What's absolutely critical is route to market. That, for me, that's probably the most important thing. You may have a great product, you may have a great team, but can you get your product to market in a way where you can demonstrate that times 10 benefit? And if you can do that, then you're likely to be successful. But so many businesses flounder along the way. It takes much longer than everybody thinks. And it takes time to get product market fit. And frequently the money runs out.
Which takes you back to that 13-year-old looking at the computer going, yeah, it's great, but how are you going to get it to market?
That's right. And today, Climb is fantastic. You're doing a fantastic service for the industry, for founders, for investors, by trying to make it a bit easier to put people in touch with each other so that investors can make great investments and founders can get their companies funded more easily.
So before you set up Diligentsia, what was the last one? What was the last business that you floated and thought, that was that, I'm done for a bit?
Diligentsia came about because as an angel investor, I and 2 colleagues spent 3 months looking at a very presentable founder with an amazing opportunity, but it was impossible to get behind the deck. And he didn't want to spend a lot of time with us unless he knew we were going to put our money in. We didn't want to put our money in unless we knew that the business stacked up behind the deck, and it was impossible to tell. So we spent some time diligencing him, the business, and sadly we discovered that there were a whole load of irregularities which would have made the whole thing not work. So we didn't put our money in. But it wasted 3 months, and it was bad for him, it was bad for us. And we sat down and we thought there must be a better way to do this. Surely if we could put a platform together that made it easy for companies to get themselves organised, put a diligence pack together so they could show it to investors, the companies would be better off for it. The time taken to raise money would be much less. And for investors, they would be getting a qualified, diligenced opportunity, which means they wouldn't be wasting their time spending a lot of time discovering that the company wasn't investable. So that was where the idea was born.
So just give us an idea of the service that the platform provides.
It's a platform really with three legs: a leg for companies, a whole load of benefits for companies, a leg for investors, and a leg for advisors, because advisors play a large part in this. The problem at the smaller end of the market, smaller companies, smaller deals, is that it's the deals are too small to afford advisors to do proper diligence. So the companies spend a lot of time looking for investors, and they spray and pray, which is terribly time consuming. The investors waste an awful lot of time looking for the companies. I think I'm probably being charitable if I say that 1% of unsolicited pitches to an investor's website actually gets invested in. Some of the VCs have told me it's 1 in 500 or 1 in 1,000. So all this sending your pitch deck off, it's not terribly productive. For investors, most investors lose most of their money on most of their deals. Most VCs don't raise a second fund because the returns from the first fund weren't good enough. That's massive inefficiency. I mean, we all know that in the UK we want to grow the country. That depends on entrepreneurial businesses doing amazing things and getting funded to do amazing things, but the allocation of capital needs to be efficient. So with Diligentsia, we've created a low-cost platform that enables companies to self-diligence. It's modular. We take them through what they need to do. We give them lots of help and support as they do it, so that they can produce a pack that, having got organised, they can then show an investor, to show that the investor that it's met the investor's investment criteria in terms of stage of development, amount of money they're looking for, industry, and that will encourage investors to spend the time looking at those decks, opportunities more seriously. We've given a whole load of tools to the investors to make diligence easier, subsequent diligence, and we want the advisors as part of this equation. So we've got a whole load of tools that will generate more margin for the services they do offer them the opportunity to generate new revenue streams, particularly in the world of AI, which is threatening some of their existing revenue streams, and introductions to new clients, because often these smaller companies don't have advisors. So we spent 3 years building a platform. It's highly automated, lots of AI, but we're doing a foundational diligence layer, which then means that we can deliver much better quality AI reports, for example, but diligence more generally to everybody concerned.
I mean, you're touching on so many things that Climb is about, and we've talked about on this podcast. It's getting your ducks in a row to a certain extent, isn't it? But you've got this great idea, but you're not necessarily a business person. You don't necessarily have HR experience. You don't have marketing. You don't have those things, and it seems that you're as much an educational tool as well as a marketing and an investment tool.
So we take you through checklists, but we tell you the risks, and we give you recommendations as to what to do next. I come from the computer games industry, so there's quite a lot of gamification there, which encourages you.
It's a bit of fun as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's the real. Look, everybody listening to this will know diligence is boring. I mean, it just is.
If we can make your accountancy, which you didn't last long in.
So we've got to try to make it fun. We've got to make it worthwhile, so that if you're going to bother doing it, you've got to get some benefit. Everybody's got to get some benefit out the other end, and that's what we believe we've built. And pleasingly, we seem to be getting quite a lot of interest from some large organisations who can encourage its use by the companies they work with.
Given everything you've said, it is no surprise that yourselves and Climb are very closely linked as we head towards Climb UK in July. Give us an idea of what you are offering to people who come to Climb.
Well, we're doing a very specific thing in conjunction with Climb, where we're the official diligence partner. What we're offering Climb attendees is the opportunity to be investor matched. So if you are a company looking for investors, we can, using our platform, you can for free do a 5-minute checklist, and we will identify from all the investors at Climb, investors that you should be talking to, because you've got a match in terms of their investment criteria. If you're an investor, you come to us, we may well already have you on our database, which makes it easy, but otherwise we'll help you quickly get set up in the database, and we will match you against attendee companies and give you a little diligence report. It's a subset of the full diligence that we would normally offer, but it can be done quickly and it's free for everybody. And then you have the opportunity to make all your meetings really count at Climb, because you can identify in advance of coming who are the people you should really be talking to.
I said speed dating, but with people you already like the look of it. It is, isn't it? It's matching like with like. It's not just taking a punt, that the person you've seen over there might be useful to you.
Well, they can come to the investor speed networking, where Gordon's asked us to pre-match all the companies and investors attending those evening events, so that they can spend even more time talking to the right people. More generally, we're matching all the attendees who are looking for funding, who want to take part, and similarly the investors, so that at the event more generally, they can, using the Climb app, make contact with the people that we will have identified for them as being relevant matches.
In some ways, it's such a simple idea, but it's brilliant in that, so many networking events, people, it's a huge room full of people you don't know who to go to. And, there may be one person in there. It just seems to cut out the rubbish.
Well, we hope so. Where we are different and where our platform more generally is different is we don't just do the matching. What we want to do is deliver diligence leads. So as part of what we're also offering for all the attendees for free, the companies, is the opportunity to do an investment readiness checklist. They can show the investor at the networking event that I'm investment ready. We're also for free giving them a whole load of reports on their company, which we can make available to investors as well. These are things like the market opportunity for this particular company, market opportunity report, route to market, absolutely critical. How are you going to reach your market? Competitor analysis. If you're a tech company, technology advantage, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So the idea is that if the company chooses to do the investment readiness, and they will get all these free reports, they can take a whole set of reports to the conversations with the investor, either at or after Climb, and they will be better prepared, and they can save the investor quite a lot of time, because they'll already have some of the questions that the investors will have asked thought through.
We've talked about the fact that you've been at the forefront. You've been in early on so many technological advances throughout your career. AI is obviously the hot thing at the moment. Was that what drove you to set this up, or has that helped you to build a platform?
AI really first appeared for us a couple of months after we started the company, but we immediately recognized that this could make such a difference to the value that we could deliver easily and inexpensively to the companies and the investors. So we've built AI in from the core. But the other thing that we've worked out over the 3 years that it's taken us nearly 3 years to build the platform. And during that time, we've realized that just like with so many other technologies, AI is rubbish in, rubbish out. If you don't give the AI query the context, then it's going to come out with very impressive sounding and looking stuff, but often wrong. So what you need the company in the next 5 years, the big thing for small companies is going to be organize their data so they can easily inform the AI query with foundational data from the company that hyper-personalizes it and makes it accurate. And that's going to be the companies that can organise themselves through diligencing themselves, setting up their data correctly, are going to have a times 10 advantage over those companies that don't.
I know it's something that Gordon's very hot on, that, pitching in front of an audience. And you've talked about it. You've talked about being that angel investor that, you can pitch all you like, but if the numbers don't add up and you don't get to that point where, are you hoping that you get to the point where gut instinct is, as an investor, you trust your gut. You've clearly got the gut instinct of what's going to go, that you don't have to spend all that time, that 3 months, just seeing whether it stacks up. The gut instinct saying this is quite good, but...
I look at it, I'm afraid, a little bit differently. I think a lot of the investment world has relied on gut, and the results historically at the smaller end of the market are not that great. I'm going to take you back, I'm afraid, 20, 30 years. Bank managers used to go into a bank manager for a personal loan. You'd shine your shoes, put on a tie and ask the bank manager for a loan, and he would use his gut to make a decision as to whether or not to give you a loan. Well, then the banks bought in computers, and hey what, they found computers could decide on loans and whether to give you one more efficiently than the bank manager. Another example is football managers. Football managers 20 years ago used to go out and they'd, on a rainy night, look at some player and come back and recommend to the board that they fancied that player and that we should buy them. Well, that's gone in the last 20 years with data analysis. And now there are massive data analytics in every professional club. And the same is going to happen in investing, where more and more investing is going to be done on data, not gut feel. And we're supporting that.
What about the people, though? There's got to be a connection.
Yes, absolutely. I look at that whole process as a pyramid. At the bottom, you've got the boring foundational pyramid. Do you own your own IP? Are you involved in any lawsuits? Have your employees assigned their IP to you? Then you've got a value diligence area. What's the market opportunity? That is going to be taken over to some extent by data and computers. What the computers will never be able to do is the top of the pyramid, which is the human element, which is personal chemistry, the experience of the investor at the top to know what's likely to work and not. So they are using that gut, but it's based on it's the top of the pyramid of data. At the moment, they're using their gut often with limited data because the companies aren't organized enough to be able to give them the data. So the investment is made primarily on the gut. So in the next decade, I think one of the big things we're going to see is the gut will still be there, but it's going to be supported by evidence.
And it cuts down the time. So if we go back to our investor speed networking events, when the investor walks into that room to meet a potential founder, what are they going to have already before they sit down and they can maybe concentrate a bit more on that chemistry?
Well, it's part of our full process. They're going to see that there's a data room, and that the company's got its documents organised. There's a business audit. There's directors' questionnaires. There's warranty disclosures, which is a whole package to show that business is likely to have uncovered issues. But that doesn't prove that it's a good business. The next layer about the market and opportunity is what the VC is really interested in. And then the next thing that we're working on is this issue of traction. Because the strongest reason to invest in something is, regardless of everything else, can you see traction? If you can see traction happening and you can quantify it and you can prove it, that's the thing that's going to excite the VC. So we're working on ways of proving and diligencing that traction easily so you can show that to your investor.
It strikes me Diligentsia has been a career's worth of work for you.
People say that we have what we have because it's really a culmination of 40 years of my mistakes. If you can learn from them, I mean, we've got a very clear vision as to what is likely to be required, and we'll find out in the next year or two whether we're right.
And what would you say were those key mistakes? Because, we all make them. And the key is, as you said, learning from them.
Firstly, everything takes longer than you would wish. And that's always a struggle. If you knew it was going to take 3 to 5 years, you wouldn't start. If the investors knew it was going to take 3 to 5 years, they wouldn't invest. And I think being realistic up front and building, not spending too much money too early, is very easy to try to think that you're going to conquer the world, but you've actually got to try to build this thing in small steps. Keep your costs down, really get your product market fit right and evidenced, show that traction, and really, really focus on proving the model.
So do you see Diligentsia, this platform, as the way forward for startups?
Yes. Our model is that it's free for advisors, it's free for investors if they put their clients and their portfolio companies on it. It's free for advisors to triage the companies. And we charge the companies a relatively small annual amount. It's very affordable because it needs to be. But we believe this can massively take away friction at the bottom so that the right investment decisions are made, the transactions happen much more quickly, and that we end up with better companies and investors that make better portfolio returns so that they can raise another fund. Because that's what we want. We all want to see everybody in the ecosystem aimed at by Climb successful. That's why we're all here and supporting each other.
So what do you hope by the end of 2 days at Climb you'll have seen? Some
companies and investors who are happy with the idea of being matched because they feel they will have had their time targeted, and people telling us that what we're doing is useful.
And somebody who has been in at the beginning of all of these trends that you've seen, what do you make of AI? Does it excite you? Is it the thing?
AI is different from everything else we've seen. I was at the beginning of the internet, commercialization of the internet, 1994, 1995. This is happening at warp speed compared to even that. We saw the computer revolution in sort of the 1980s, and there was a lot of talk about mass unemployment. Computers would take over jobs from humans. That didn't happen. What we've seen is the repurposing of humans into completely different jobs. Lots of development jobs, much less administrative jobs. I've seen the dot-com boom, where there was massive growth, but fairly unchanneled, a bit Wild West, and we're seeing something fairly similar with AI. The difference with AI, though, is the speed with which this is happening, the way that AI can learn from itself. I think that is like something I haven't seen before. I am worried about jobs because I think the loss of jobs will be faster than the creation of new jobs to support this massive fundamental change to society. I think there are gigantic political issues around AI. In particular, AI is likely to be owned by half a dozen large companies, probably American, probably owned by individuals. And these companies are going to become stronger than states. And that has some big democratic issues as well, I think. So it's not just about changing jobs and changing society. I think it's got massive political implications as well.
Oh, and what next for you? Do you sit and wait to see what Diligentsia does and make your millions off the back of it? Or is there yet another business?
My wife would kill me if I suggested there was going to be another business after this. No, this is the culmination of lots of experience, good and bad. Let's see whether we can make this one work. We may or we. I'm like every other startup founder. I'm passionate. I believe it should work, but we'll find out. It's too early to tell.
Is it giving you the same buzz as all the others?
Absolutely. I love doing this stuff. I love working with young people. I love pushing the boundaries. I love trying to figure out how can we make this useful. Most of the people who do startups are not in it for the money. They're in it they have an idea, a vision of what something they could do to make whatever it is better, a better place. And it's about the struggle, because it is normally a struggle, to get you to see whether you can make your vision come true. That's why everybody does it. And if by doing that they make money as well, that's important, but that's not the number one driver for 99% of the people coming to Climb, I would think.
We can't wait to work with you. So what do people need to do before they actually get to Climb to make sure they can make the best of Investor Match and those speed
what you need to do is very easy indeed. You come to the Diligentsia website. There's a dedicated landing page. If you're a company, you do a 5-minute questionnaire. You can do a longer one on top of that to do your investor readiness if you want a great big pack to show investors. If you're an investor, we may already have you on our database. Come to the website and check whether you're already there. If you're not, we'll set you up very quickly. It's easy to do, and it's going to mean that when you're a Climb, you're going to have some matched fantastic opportunities, and we want to support you every step of the way.
Well, fingers crossed this speed dating leads to some very happy marriages down the line.
That's what we'd like to see.
Mark, thanks ever so much for your time. Looking forward to working with you during Climb. Join us again for another Conversations at the Summit.